Copenhagen, Denmark. It was my first night working private security in one of the Baxter Foods supermarkets, suffering from massive thefts, not from shoplifters but from the employees. The store was something to see and experience. It had a green and white color scheme, from the walls down to the floor tiles. It had a weird mix of goods. Like any average supermarket, it had food items, milk, bread, etc., but it also sold a surprisingly large selection of power tools, drills, and chainsaws. Who gets their chainsaw from the supermarket? The clientele was mostly so-called regular people, working class. In other words, my kind of place. Walking through the aisles, you heard a wide collection of languages from the shoppers: Arabic, Pashto, Dutch, Swedish, and English, along with some Danish and Spanish tossed in. The store was not located in the best of neighborhoods by Danish standards. In New York, my childhood city, this place would be more or less ordinary. But let's face it, they would not have had me there if things were all that great. After arriving, as was customary, I approached the store manager to announce that I was on the premises. Our conversation covered where in the store he wanted extra attention from security, and other practical things like the location of the employee break room and bathrooms, etc. Equipped with the necessary information, I began my first set of rounds in the store, looking out for suspicious types. Since I was in uniform, and easy to identify along the way, I would also get regular questions about where items were located. Do you know which aisle I can find toilet paper? My usual response: I don't know. I only do security here. However, the primary duty of uniformed in-store security is to be present. If you are doing your job correctly, your presence alone will deter the majority of shoplifters and troublemakers. Then, later in the evening, I met the woman who would have a greater impact on me than I could have ever imagined. The moment when I met Lulu, I instinctively knew things would never return to how they were. My typically broad vocabulary was embarrassingly inadequate when I would later attempt to describe that moment to others. This was because it wasn't anything visible or tangible, just an intense feeling. Words did not fit or could fully explain what I experienced. No words were spoken, we just looked at each other, and there was a connection. It was the connection that almost everyone has had, or, I hope, everyone will experience. The one where you meet someone, and you are both drawn to each other for no apparent reason. Lulu was a cashier, and I went over to introduce myself as security for the evening, mostly because I had never worked in that store. I said,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?